Okay, welcome back. It is Wednesday, and for today, we are not doing Mental Health Minute, but we are doing a Heal Talk segment. And you heard that right, Heal Talk. So instead of us sitting here saying we talking real talk, we're actually going to bring healing and talking, bring them together and have some Heal Talk. I had a couple of these segments already, and today I wanted to have a segment on Heal Talk around manhood and define that in different ways, how it resonates for the guests that I'm bringing into the space, but also how it identifies us in us as leaders and how we see others as leaders. So we're going to have a great conversation. We're approaching this one a little different too in terms of the questioning and how we process these questions. But of course, when I do this, as much as I love to be the messenger, you know I got to bring messengers through to the building. And today I have my man, Coach Mike James, and Mike Sykes, Mr. Easy Equity in the space. And fellas, first of all, gratitude to both of you for just joining me, and of course, always saying yes and getting down on this platform with me. And you know, all everything that I do on this platform, all the segments, the conversations, is all for our humans in our lives, the people to take in these great food for thoughts. And because I believe in the messengers that I bring into the space and how powerful their message is, it's always a pleasure to have both of y'all either individually in the space where I can chop it up with you, and then the honor of having both of y'all in the space. And just to the audience to know, we might have another guest that might come in a little later and join the conversation, or might not. We'll see. But right now, I have Coach Mike James, Mr. Easy Equity in the space. You heard the conversation or the topic, manhood. And I said, I'm going to approach it a different way. So today I wanted to bring some of my processing tools, fellas, and do a little processing on manhood, right? And the first processing tool is the puzzle piece, right? And what we use as the puzzle piece is the connecting pieces that make us a man. What are those pieces? What are those puzzle pieces for you? And you can answer this individually as yourself, or you can answer it in a general, collective way if you want as well. But I'll open the floor, let y'all do your thing. Here's the processing tool piece, the puzzle. What are the pieces that make you a man or a man in general? What you got for us?
Coach, look, let me just say to you, always a pleasure to be in the space, and of course, amazing and awesome opportunity to meet Mike, and just happy to have Mike and Mike on the mic with you, Coach. So right now in the space, you brought up the puzzle piece. The first thing came to mind. I thought about a puzzle piece, and I thought about, okay, if there was three other pieces missing to make it a square, and I just thought about three things. You said manhood, community, responsibility, and accountability. That's what I thought about. Community, how you show up in and for your community. Responsibility, the responsibility you have to yourself and others, right? Because we say, man, this and that. Oh, you can't cry. Do some push ups or something, boy. What? If I'm hurting, I can't cry. Responsibility of the things that you need to do, right? And then accountability. And accountability goes two ways. It's how you can hold yourself accountable and how I can let my brothers, the women, the people in my life, my community hold me accountable as well. Because somebody got to call me out when I ain't doing what I need to be doing. So when you held up the puzzle, that's immediately what dropped in my spirit, bro. It's just this idea of three other puzzle pieces that connect right there. It's the responsibility, the community, and accountability.
Dope, dope. First of all, Adam, like, um, I put out a post. I did a value and validation challenge, and I also did this segment of when I got to speak to some youth, and it was called a slide in there was called "Flowers Aren't Meant for Funerals." They're meant for the people to receive today. So, Adam, I just want to make sure you get your flowers and always bringing good people together, brother. I love you. I appreciate all that you do from like the bottom of my heart. I love the question, and it was like similar to Coach Mike. It's like something just came into me. It's just like I I saw the pieces missing, and when I first thought about manhood, I was like, I don't even know what that is. And it's been a process for me to become a man. And I also thought about my uncle, who is no longer here, but like he taught me what a man does. Um, he was vulnerable, he was strong, he was soft, he was all these different things. So when Coach Mike is saying those three things, well, the three things that came up for me is like love for self, love for others, and love for your community. My uncle was a father not only to me but to the community, and I think that's manhood too. And then the way he treated family, like patriarch, like the person that just he was a hug, a hug of accountability. So I love that, Mike. Like if you was messing up, you had to do better. And just because you heard me say this before, just because you made a mistake doesn't mean that you are a mistake. He gave me
Mhm.
opportunity to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And before he passed away, I got to talk to him, and I was like, Uncle D, I always saw you as my dad, and he's like, I always saw you as my son, and like that's when I knew I was a man.
Mm.
It was in that moment because there was this transference of responsibility. Once again, Coach Mike, in love, accountability of like I had to walk different in spaces now.
Mm. So I'm gonna just jump in real quick. Both, thank you both for sharing those insights. As you could tell in the beginning of this segment, when I started recording, I said we'll have another guest join us. And we have the Growfessor in the building. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And just to catch you up here, we have Coach Mike James, Mike Syke, Mr. Easy Equity, and the Growfessor in the building. And Growfessor, what we're speaking on, and the topic is manhood, how it resonates in us, with us, and the leadership styles, the leader in us. But in particularly, I'm approaching this one with just not just questions. I'm using processing tools. And the first one is the puzzle piece.
Okay.
And what it represents, as Coach Mike James and Mike Sykes answered the question of what it resonates for them, the puzzle pieces that make a man, the pieces that come together that make a man. And you can answer that specifically in an individual way or in a general way. But either way, sir, thank you for joining the team here, the squad, and I appreciate you joining the space.
No, J Bagwan, my brothers. Hey, look, anytime I can start a call on a Friday with four brothers, guys, it's a rarity in life, right? So let me just be
Absolutely.
grateful and gracious for that piece, especially in given the conversation that we're talking about, because I think it's really important when we think about manhood, is that our first definition of that is actually conditioned to us. Somebody else is telling us, oh, you're a boy, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Forget how you feel, right? And I think that part of that journey into manhood becomes finding your own authentic voice, which is to say, I hear you, Pops, I hear you, Mom, I hear you, church, but this thing right here feels authentic to me for me to make this move. And I think the one thing that I think the world sort of depends on men to do as well too is for us to be able to make these tough decisions or tough calls independent of the consequences, because we're not supposed to cry, we're not supposed to have feelings, we're not supposed to have emotions, all of these things. And so one of the things you learn as a man is that's not true. You making those decisions comes with all of those things, and you have zero tools on how to deal with that. And so I think really that piece of coming to a man becomes really first and foremost recognizing that conditioning that you have has warped your own framing. And if you don't challenge that, you continue to chase these things about being a man that you don't even resonate with in yourself. And so I would sort of say that first thing becomes is recognizing your own conditioning, and two, having the tools to decondition yourself, which I call that in my model excavation, as one of those steps.
Hey, I love that. That's heel talk right there. I think for me, just to answer the processing tool question, which also I can be part of the cloth here. I agree with all of y'all in all of it in terms of the things that connect, the things that that puzzle piece that connects those things for you. And I would say part of my puzzle piece that because I'm a fatherless child, I was raised by a woman, and I feel a lot of that puzzle piece started with that.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Joe and I talked about the feminine and masculine energy and
The
how we
yin
don't
and
recognize both sides, right? So I always start with that because moms was pops. A lot of what I learned where I taught my sons how to potty, use the washroom. A couple of them shave. One's on the way, probably in another month or so. I'm teaching him how to shave. My mom's was doing those things. So I started with that. So that energy of that. And then I believe the other piece is and I wholeheartedly agree with Coach Mike, community, man. And I equate that not just to the outside, the inside as well. My family, my inner community, um, the identity that they helped carved in my manhood, the different examples like Mr. Easy Equity was mentioned about his uncle, right? I have a similar situation to that with an uncle who I look up to. So I agree with all. I'm not trying to be repetitive and sounding here and what y'all saying, but I appreciate that answer. Moving on to the next process into a question, and this one is the Band-Aid. Yeah, it's the Band-Aid. And really what I wanted to, the question for this one, I wanted it to be around the wounds that men tend to hold and Band-Aid when maybe it needs more than that, right? And I think that's the great thing about powerful processing tools, that it gives you the visual as well, right? And it's a pretty big ass Band-Aid, y'all. That ain't a little
Right.
Band-Aid. That's almost one that belong on the knee or
for some
something.
for some big hidden wounds.
Yeah. And take it whichever way you want. This is an open space, right? And I know it's a safe space with us four. So who's coming up first? Who's up first to bat?
Look, I think if I jump in this and I think about the wounds again, this gets back into this conditioning thing that is just for me very difficult to get away from. One of the classic stories that I've heard, and I'm going to sort of tell it in my own way, is that think about a kid who is outside playing and you're just running, but you're about to run into the street. Your parent is going to react in such a way that you are just shocked by. Because in your mind, you're just outside playing, you're just running. You're not thinking about the dangers, you're not thinking about none of this. But then that parent comes and grabs you and like, don't do this, and shake. Now you're frozen. But you got no words to deal with this scenario at all. But now when your parent yells at you, you start to freeze. Whatever that reaction becomes, it becomes default. And so you carry this for your life because you are none the wiser that that's when you picked it up at. There's some of the traumas that we pick up in our early foundation that if we never spend time understanding what that is, or if somebody yells and you flinch and you never sort of ask that why, or you see folks in their house and they never let kids run inside the house, it's like, well, you won't let them outside to play and run. Where else do you want them to do it? And so now as a kid, all you trying to do is run and play, and somebody is telling you to sit down, be still, and nothing energetically about you says this makes sense, and yet you have no words. Some of the deepest wounds we have are the ones where we have no tools and no words to even figure out how to address. So we just push it wherever we can push it to kind of keep on, because the world tells us you shouldn't be crying. I didn't hurt you. It wasn't that bad. All I did was say this. You too soft. And so now you've suppressed all of this stuff down, and it's now layered on top of all of these things they told you. So the Band-Aid is actually, the first wound is way down there. It's like a series of Band-Aids, because when you take this one off, it's like, gotta let that heal. Now you gotta pull that piece off. And so the Band-Aid is a perfect analogy because we're all right with Band-Aids. We just don't think about it to say, hey, you know what? Let me take this Band-Aid off. Why am I still wearing this? This place is completely healed. But as long as the Band-Aid is there, we feel safe.
Fire. Rope Professor. All right. I know why they call you that. All right.
Let's heal talk. Let's heal
If
talk.
you don't know, now you know.
That's where we at. That's where we at, right? That's where we at. You got to get to the root cause, right? So to talk about the Band-Aid, you need to know, what is a Band-Aid used for? Why might I have a Band-Aid? So now you're asking these level questions down. But when do you get to ask your parents why multiple times? It doesn't happen. So again, you're not getting the tools to kind of go, well, where do I go to get this question? You can't go to somebody else's house and find out the information, because what your parents gonna tell you? This ain't their house. I run my house my way. This ain't your little friend. So you go. So now, even when you're trying to get information, you're still struggling, and the wound is still there, and it's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Because in fact, the wounds that actually hurt us the most is so many layers of why down that even sometimes, and I did this in my first, I don't know, 7, 8, maybe 8 years ago, my first therapy session. It was really good. I was like, oh, I'm better. Man, I had no clue we were scratching the surface of the whole peeling of the onion, how they talk about.
Uh-huh.
And that
Yeah.
peel of the onion is so perfect because if you think about when you peel the onion, that when you first peel it, that part is wet. The air gets on it, it gets dry, it starts getting brown, it starts getting dirty, and then you try to go to another fresh layer. And that's what happened. Every time you get healed, there's another level to go down and say, okay, well, now this is healed. I can go down another level to sort of see what that is. And so this space of this Band-Aid is so really powerful from this perspective of is you got to ask yourself, why am I hurt? Where did I get it hurt? What are this sort of the sensory triggers? What are the stimuli? Because if I can't chase down the stimuli, I'm just going to be reacting every time I get hit. And that's not how you want to be. That's not how you're ever going to find your authenticity.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that, Growfester. And Adam, when you had that Band-Aid, the first thing I thought about listening to Growfester was like, you can't heal with a Band-Aid on.
That's right.
You can't. It's not until you take the Band-Aid off where your body can actually truly heal. You can recover some with a Band-Aid, but you can't really heal. And like what I heard you talking about, Professor, that yell, that shock, that's like that trauma response, right? And oftentimes when we're talking about manhood and fatherhood, I had to start telling people just because my dad isn't in my life right now doesn't mean I still have daddy issues. I used to have daddy issues. I don't have daddy issues anymore because I healed. That's the whole point. But like when you're talking about Band-Aids, I was hurt that my dad wasn't in my life consistently. And that led to how I parented. The power over the yelling, I'm strong, suck it up, do wall sits, don't I give you something to cry about, all the things that don't work,
that don't
all
work.
the things that cause more harm. And so when I also saw the Band-Aid, is like I thought it was like, dang, how often have I scarred my children? And what am I doing to change so I can take it off? What am I doing to support with healing? How can I listen to their true experience? That's probably going to cut deep. That's going to cut deep with me because I hurt you. The people I love most, I hurt you. So I'm going to allow you to rip your Band-Aid off, but that also means I got to be able to listen to your truth. And sometimes as men, we don't want to say that. I didn't do that. That was me who I was trying what I meant to be, but it don't matter. What I did is what I did, and your truth is your reality. And now I gotta reckon with that. And so like now I gotta grow inside, build my Sykes that was 8 years old, so I can stop saying I have daddy issues. So then as after I told you this, like there was a point where I said, my father needs to step up and be a good dad. I switched to how am I being a good son? And so once I switched to being a good son, then I started acting different and I had complete control over me. So then I started to listen to his story. I started to see him as a person instead of an object. And once I saw him as a person, I began to have more love for him. I can see him, his trials and tribulations. Then he had a story instead of the story I was making up. So once I heard his story, his mom died during childbirth. And he never met his dad. I was like, oh, shoot. You never knew what a man was either. He's raised by his sister. And so then I was like, okay, so how am I holding you responsible for something you never learned?
Well, how was you even supposed to know that?
Yeah, right. Because I never asked.
That's absolutely, but you never knew the words to ask.
Right. And so once that started like happening, like forgiveness came into my heart, and that's like the vulnerability. So then I start switching my whole game and I said like, Mike, what is the most generous thing you could say about your dad? He stepped away. He loved me so much that he stepped away because he didn't want to ruin my life. I
Whew.
was like, whoa, what strength would that take for a man to step away from his firstborn son in order not to cause harm? I was like, dang. So now I had that perspective. So saw him as strength, not weakness, not harm. So then I started to heal myself. And then I had to start working on my kids to make sure I show up different as a father. So now I was like, Mike, you are loved, you are light, you are vulnerable. These are all the things you tried to hide, but this is who you are. So now I showed up different towards my kids. I cried in front of my kids. I said sorry. Hey, tell me your truth, your real truth. And now I have like check-ins, like, how am I doing as a father? For real, like, how am I doing? And my daughter like, you doing okay, Dad? All right, what's okay look like? And then she was like, all right, you're good. I'm like, okay, but how can I be better? I need you to have the father that makes you thrive, where you feel seen, where you come to me with any and everything because I love you with everything in my spirit. But if you don't know that and you can't feel that, then that's just me gaslighting you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna pause because
Yeah. I,
other people
you
got
know,
to say.
honestly, it's amazing. Those two beautiful things y'all shared. It's crazy, Adam. It took me back to what I said, my definition, the puzzle pieces of a man, right? Community, responsibility, accountability. I heard
Mm,
community in both of those stories, right?
mm,
I heard, man, Mike, you hit so much on not only responsibility but accountability. So, Adam, you pitched two things to us: wounds and the band-aid. I say the wounds are the experiences, the things that the community we're in that we didn't choose from
that's right.
birth. The
That's right.
experiences that happen to us are those wounds. But here's the band-aid: the way we cope, the way
Yes.
we respond. Somebody told me a few years ago, responsibility is the ability to respond. And so when Mike was talking about that perspective shift, I can look at what's happening to me, but how am I happening to the things, right? And so that wounds versus the band-aids is also something else so powerful. We have to address the band-aid. It can't stay forever. Then the band-aid's dirty, it's
That's
messed up the wound, it's infected. And so we gotta at some point, from what Professor said to what Mike said, at some point we gotta remove that layer. We gotta clean the wound and put on a fresh band-aid. So now it's a different perspective, right? So that it just made me think back to that again, that responsibility, accountability, and community of being a man. Because as Professor said, and it was so amazing because he wasn't here, but he echoed so much of what I said. We got to do this, do some push-ups or something. You can't cry. You can't suck it up. How you gonna hit me in my chest, man? I'm
yes,
4. It
yes,
hurts. I
yes.
want to cry, right? So the wounds are the things that happen to us, whether or not by our choosing, right? Because some stuff, look, we put ourselves in some situations, especially the older we get. But then the band-aids is the way we cope, the way we respond, the accountability after the fact. How are we going to heal? Because we have to heal. If not, then we become hurt people, right? And it becomes Mike not realizing that, hey, he didn't know any better. And like Professor said, well, how are you supposed to know? So again, this is a prior conversation we had, right, Adam? Things don't run in your family, habits run in your family. So when are you going to break the cycle and say, let me do something different with my children, the next generation? Let's have an open conversation about what it means or not to be a man. First of all, what is your definition, right? Before I just pour on to you and you have no idea. So that right there, I think, just brings that home, and it's so amazing how powerful it can be, how we respond. And coming back to that responsibility, it's the ability to respond. We have an ability to respond. Sometimes the best response is no response. So how are we going to now cope with the things that happen to us, or either respond to them? And that's what I see when you held up that big ass band-aid. Because I thought, like I said, a lot of this stuff is some big wounds that we've been running from, and it's chasing us. Like I'm catching up to you, Mike. You better address this. So that's what I think about when I think about that question.
You know what?
All
If
right.
I could, there are a couple things that I think that was teased out that I think we all kind of intimated on. I'm a big proponent of it's not about life is not about what happens to you, it's about how you respond. I did a whole commencement speech sort of outlining that, and I think that's what we're sort of saying here. I think the other thing that I think we also have to do sort of think about, again, getting back to this word conditioning, we're also conditioning that taking the band-aid off hurts rather than taking the band-aid off heals. We have this false sense of security with the band-aid, and so now we're mentally saying, I don't want to take this band-aid off because I feel safe under this band-aid. That is a fallacy. And so when you talked about breaking those habits, some of the habits that we have to break are the stories we tell ourselves about what hurt and what doesn't hurt and why we feel that hurt. And Coach Mike James, I thought you was going there when you was talking about, hey, when you got to pull that band-aid off, we got to stop thinking that it's hurt. I got a 4-year-old and she's like, no, 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 it's going to hurt. And then when you take the band-aid off, she's like, oh, that didn't hurt. But you had this whole mental experience thinking that it was going to hurt. The deeper the wound, the bigger the band-aid, the bigger that fear is, right? And so we got to stop being afraid to heal because it's messy. And it's messy because you have to unpack the false things that you're holding on to. And you got to realize, wait, I've been holding on to this. And it's messy because you have to come to terms. Man, I was holding on to some bullshit, right? And this bullshit in my life, it led me to doing these bad behaviors that if I'd have just known better here, well, it's not that you needed to know better now. It's that your awareness has now brought you to this doesn't serve you now. So if you stay in the moment and say, well, let me take this band-aid off right now, you're now stepping into something that I think, Coach Mike, you said, what am I going to do now in this moment to break that habit? It's as simple as that. But if we're afraid to take the band-aid off, good luck even getting them to touch the band-aid or recognize that the band-aid is there.
One
So
more
there's a
thing,
lot of
Adam.
mic drops. Go ahead.
Their Professor and Coach Mike, Professor, you don't know this. I wrote a book called Easy Equity, and one of the chapters is "Let Go to Grow." Right, and that's like you have to take off that band-aid. You have to stop carrying things that no longer serve you in order to move forward. Like sometimes we want to be the person that we're destined to be, but we're carrying the things that no longer serve us. So you can't do both.
Can't
And
serve two masters.
so you have to, and like I love that you said you think it's going to hurt. It's like it isn't. It's no longer serving you.
That's right.
It's just making you heavy. You got on a weight jacket that's 100 pounds, and you're talking about your knees hurt. Take off the weight jacket. Oh my God, it's so dark in here. Then turn on the light. And it's just like it's not as hard as we think it is. We think healing is messy. Don't get me wrong, but we think it can't hurt. We think it's just going to be this elongated process, but there's little steps you can take to heal instantly. Taking a breath can heal you. Taking a walk can heal you. There's things that are tangible right now. Having this conversation with four amazing people
is healing me. Yes.
And so it's just like let go to grow, man. You like sometimes I see people walking with a limp, and I'm like, your leg ain't even hurt, dude. Your leg ain't hurt, but you're so used to walking with a limp. You're used to getting certain reactions. You're bonding with this trauma because it serves you. You think it serves you.
Yeah.
But if you let it go, you can be what you're destined to be, which is light and love.
Yeah, dropping some gems.
And drop the name of that book again.
Easy Equity.
Easy Equity.
Gotcha. Like that.
All right, so y'all dropping some gems. And there was a lot of mic drops there, some great information. I want to move to the next one. If y'all cool with it. And Professor, I know that you had a hard stop at some time. So obviously when you need to just step away, do what you got to do. But I appreciate you being here. Next one.
It's now. I got another one starting at 12, but I need to hear this before I jump off. So I'm not gonna comment, but I want to listen before I go.
For sure. And it's the cinder block, y'all. There we go. Cinder block. Right? And let's kind of put this around your ankle. What's holding us there? Like what cinder block are men putting around the
Mm.
ankle, self-afflicting? We talked about that,
Man,
Coach James. Coach Mike, you went into that a little bit. These
bro,
self-affliction things.
yeah,
Let's
you
go.
know what? It's so funny. It's April 11th. When you and I were talking earlier, I looked and I caught 11:11. Why am I saying this? Because it's alignment. Man, Mike was just talking about you got on the weight vest. It ain't serving you, man. Reach down and take off the shackle of that cinder block. When you held it up, I knew what it was, and I just felt all I thought was heavy.
Mm.
Talk about being a man from where we started with, right? The puzzle piece. One of the puzzle pieces is you trying to carry all the weight of the world. You ain't got to, bruh. And this goes back from what the professor said, because of our conditioning, right? Our conditioning says, oh, you have to do this. You got to solve everybody's problem. How can you ain't got no time for yourself because you looking at everybody else? Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to have this job. I got to make this money. I got to have the girls. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, and then I find out, oh, if you sleep with all the girls, you this, you that. Oh, wait a minute. Let it go. Like that cinder block, man. Do you know how strong you can get if you start to just get that off of you and push, pull, do something different? We have to carry it. We got to hold it so close. And so when you said that, man, what is that thing that's holding us back? It goes back to everything we talked about to this point. It's the things that we're carrying with us that no longer serve us. It's the idea where Professor said, somebody somebody told you what it means to be a man, but when have you sat down to say to yourself, what does it mean to me to be a man? Hey, dad, grandpa, uncle, I know how y'all did it, but y'all didn't have the life that we have in 2025. Y'all ain't have the puzzle pieces that we got to put together in 2025, bro. I'm just saying, gas was 69 cents a gallon. So don't tell me that I get to do the same thing you did and I'm gonna wind up the same way. And so for me, that's all I thought about to bring it home is when I saw that cinder block, it's just like heavy. It could be so, Mike went into this, man, healing, being a man, life in general. And Adam, even as a life coach, I tell the coaches when I'm teaching the classes, I say, y'all, it could be so simple if you would let people define things for themselves.
Yes.
I don't have to fix what ain't broken. To a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I'm gonna go around seeing what I get to hammer in. But I ain't no, I'm a flashlight. I just want to shine the light. I ain't gotta hammer everything. So guess what I just did? Because I'm walking around with my flashlight to see where I'm going. I just threw the cinder block off. It ain't heavy no more. Whoa, that feels different. I can move my shoulders. That's all I saw, bro.
I think when you show that center block, that's crazy to me. And I talked a little bit about my uncle, and when he was in hospice, like I say, Uncle D, I got you. I will carry the psych's name. I'll do this. I'll do this. You don't have to worry. I'm gonna take care. I got everything. And he's like, no, I didn't do all this and sacrifice all this so you can now carry it. And he's like, this killed me. I did all this so you can be you, so you can be the man. And I was like, that was mind blowing because sometimes as men we think just like Coach Mike and Professors think we have to carry everything. It's like no, I'm gonna love me in a way that is transformational. So now I'm a thinker. I take breaths. And so when
Mm,
I'm thinking and I get to define what a manhood looks for Mike Sykes, now I'm no longer shackled in everybody else's reality. Take off the blocks. Take off the blocks. You ain't putting anything on my ankles because I can think for me. So your definition of manhood, okay, I might take some things, I might disagree with some things, and I add it to my toolbox, but I get to decide that. I get to decide how I'm going to walk. And so many times, like Coach Mike was saying, like I see people carrying so many cinder blocks. I'm like, how are you even moving? But the fact that you're moving is amazing. But if you took it off, you know how fast, how much further you will be able to go with less effort. And so we see I'll say people of color, like the heaviness is everywhere. I feel that stuff in too. I feel it too. And I also have to take a breath and thinking like it doesn't have to be. Yes, if you're looking for dark, you're going to find dark. If you're looking for light, you're going to find light. So, like Coach Mike is saying, I'm looking for illumination.
Mm.
I'm trying to shine. I'm providing other opportunities for other people to shine. So when we were talking about being fatherhood and things like that, it's not that I'm trying to. My parenting looks different. I'm just trying to illuminate paths so people, so my kids can decide which direction they want to go. I don't tell them which direction. I give you some advice and stuff like that, but your life is your life. And I love you regardless. You would never be able to break this relationship with me because I love you unconditionally. But you have to go on your own journey. I'm just trying to make sure I'm a illuminate, shine that flashlight on all the tracks, all the good things. But it's your choice. So now you're not shackling your dad's reality because I might be thinking too small for you. You get to for yourself and you get to determine which way you want to go. And that's liberation from me too.
But that was just heel manhood talking, though, Mike, because you didn't say, I know it all. I'm trying to tell you so you don't make the mistakes I made. You said illuminate it so you're not trapped in your death. That comes even from a heel position and what the professor's been saying, your conditioning, right? So heal people, right? We say hurt people, but we don't hear enough that heal people. For Mike to say that now is like I'm giving my kids a choice and I'm just going to illuminate it for you. I'm illuminating the path. You choose how you're going to do it because guess what? You're still going to have the ability to respond to the mistakes you make. And now I don't have to say I told you so. I'm gonna say, okay, let's get you back on track. Let me put the light back because maybe it fell a little bit. Let me put it back on the path for you. All right, there you go. Make your choice again. So I just thought about that one.
I know I wasn't going to say anything, but I need to say this instead of get back. We got to stop thinking everything is a mistake. I don't know what tomorrow's hold. I'm facing stuff for the first time. And in addition to everything we saying, I'm facing new challenges with all of this old baggage at the same time. Some of the stuff that I run into is not intentional. I just didn't know any better. And I needed to step on that rusty nail to know that if I don't get a rusty nail treated, I can get an infection in my foot. Some of it is you just got to go through the experience, and it's not a mistake. It is just a learning and growing opportunity. And that's what I love about what Easy talked about, which is I just want to share with you what the options are.
Yeah.
And you decide which option you go. And it's not that you're making a mistake. You're going in with eyes as wide as you possibly know at a particular time, because we all have some trauma that is blinding us to some degree. And it's when you run into these new things that you go, wait a minute, asking why a couple times. Oh, I need to let this thing go. That's how I ran into this. So it's not a mistake. You just got to grow through it. Because again, puberty doesn't happen without the weird body stuff that's happening. You just don't, you can't just you're not going to go from 4 to 20 and then go through that awkward phase in life. You just got to go through it. It's not a mistake. It's a fact. And we've got to be more gracious with some of the things we run into that actually become opportunities for us to learn about ourselves. But yet, because we call everything a mistake, again, it carries a weight that it probably shouldn't carry. But hey, I got to run. Peace, my brothers. Happy Friday.
Nice meeting you,
Peace
bro.
out, Professor. So y'all dropped some more gems on that one. We're going to pivot a little here. Excuse me. We're going to pivot to I talked about the leadership piece within us. So we have the processing tools. I have these things. Again, these are called leadership wheelies. And the question is, what have difficult people in your life taught you about yourself? And how has that helped you as a leader? I'll say it again. What have difficult people in your life taught you about yourself? And how has that helped you as a leader?
Oh man, when you said difficult people, it's so funny because I always say first you got to start with a definition, right? So what difficult is to an individual. For me, what I would say is difficult people, honestly, the way my glass overflowing self looks at life, I don't see anybody as being difficult, right? Because as I say, you have the ability to respond. But I would say difficult would be maybe people that you fell out with, so to speak, right? Or people that you no longer have a working or healthy relationship with. And I share this, and I can say this clearly it's no secret. I don't have a working or healthy connection with the two best men from my wedding, the two best men from my wedding, who are also fraternity brothers and at the time business partners. And it's so funny because when people that we are mutually connected to, when they talk about years ago, years now, but when they talk about it, it's almost like they're fishing for me to say something negative.
Mm.
So here's what difficult people has taught me about leadership in particular. I don't have to down someone else to prove myself. I'll say it again. I don't have to down someone else to prove myself. If we fell out for whatever reason, that has nothing to do with their connection of some to someone else, right? I don't have to trash someone to state my purpose. So in leadership, it's like always see yourself at a ground level. Now, notice I didn't say lowly, I didn't say highly, at a ground level, right? Just where you are and be real. Because again, if Mike and I fall out, I don't have to say, man, Adam, let me tell you this and that and all that. No, we grew apart. Things happen. Life happens. Heck, all the stuff we've been talking about to this point. So again, difficult people has shown me ultimately that I don't have to be difficult to someone else because I have the responsibility, the ability to respond to situations how I want. That's me taking my power back. Because once I go there and people say match energy, no, exhort your energy. If it's matching the energy that you want to do and that's the energy you want to carry, cool. But you're not gonna make me match your energy when I'm not there. So if match energy, if it's negative energy, I want to match that? No, because I can still come at you with kindness and candor. I can still come at you in a positive light. Adam from class, I can say what I mean what I say, and I don't have to say it mean. And you get my point, right? So that's what I think about when I think about difficult people and what it's taught me is just the idea that people don't control me. And this is just what we left, right? People don't control me.
Mhm.
Simple as that.
Okay, Coach Mike. Say what you mean what you say, but I don't have to say it mean. Never heard that. That's fire. Um, just fire. Dang, I appreciate that. I've received all of that. Thank you. I needed to hear that today. Uh, for me, it's like when you're talking about the energy, like that makes total sense. Like match negative energy with negative energy. Negative energy has a certain frequency that causes harm. Why would I put that frequency in my body to cause harm? So I can hurt you and hurt me at the same time? That's not what I'm manifesting. That's not where I'm trying to go. And my first thought, Adam, when you said that question, I'm similar to Coach Mike, to Mike's Don't Make It Wrong, is I like define difficult because I work with educators, work with things, and organizations, and there's like, oh, that kid's difficult, that person's difficult, and I was like, what I'm hearing you say, you didn't get what you want, so now there's something, now they're difficult. But to answer your question, Adam, what I learned is I noticed people became quote unquote difficult when I outgrew them.
Mm.
When I changed and gave them somebody different to respond to, they became difficult, so to speak. And I love what you say, Coach Rice. Everything you're saying, like I don't have to dim somebody else's light in order for me to shine brighter. I don't. And so, like, what they taught me was I was moving. That's what quote unquote difficult people taught me. It showed me that I was growing because I started to see things different. And you still talking about the same stuff, and you doing the same actions, having the same behaviors, talking stuff about other people, gossiping. Oh, let's go to the club and talk to a whole bunch of girls. Let's keep doing this. Let's keep doing this. And I'm just like, nah, man. I'm gonna go home and chill. I'm gonna go home and work on my business. No, I'm gonna go home and do this. No, I'm going to into myself. I'm trying something new. I'm going to meditate. And then we started clashing. And I'm just like, yo, you are seeing me as something that I'm not. I was that, but now I'm more. We can go grow together, but I'm not going to be shackled in your reality of saying that I had to be stagnant in the person when we first met or grew up as boys. Hey, yeah, we are boys, but now I'm a man, dude. And you need to see me as that. And we could grow together, but if you're not moving, doesn't mean I'm staying still. So now I'm shady, I'm too good, and all this other stuff. I'm like, no, I'm just I'm becoming more because I already know that I'm enough. And so now I'm willing to grow. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to be a better father. I'm examining things. I'm working on my weaknesses. I'm healing those wounds. I'm healing that 8 year old Mike Sykes. I'm speaking life into him. I'm telling him everything's okay. Hey, like Growth Esther's like, that wasn't a mistake, Mike. Little Mike. Mikey, as they called me when I was younger. You're good, brother. You needed to go through that. And so like that's what difficult people have taught me that they taught me that you're moving. And
Mm.
and like I think Denzel Washington said this like nobody hates on somebody that isn't doing anything. And I was like, oh dang, I'm getting all the shade, I'm getting all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can respond, but that tells me I'm in motion. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, just keep doing what you're doing.
All
Hey,
right.
pick yourself up, Mike, because he dropped the mic when he said, and I've heard that before, but when you brought that story together, you become difficult a lot of times when you've outgrown people, right? And so that's another reason why sometimes I don't want to just go there because someone fell out with me, because you got to ask yourself, did they outgrow me? Did I outgrow them? And so I love that right there. That just brought it home. It's just like, that's it.
You're both. I knew this was going to happen. That the folks I was bringing to the space were going to drop some gems. We're going to hit the last one here, y'all. The last one, and we're going to go back to the processing tool again. We're going to talk about the I. Yeah, we're going to talk about the I. And the I is something that you see in yourself as a man that maybe others don't see. Something you see in yourself as a man that maybe others don't see. You can even put it as Mike, Mike and Mike, whichever way, right? But that's what the I represents.
I, for me, and here's in all of my, my mom used to tell us, this idea of in all you're getting, get an understanding, right? And so I would say for me, one of the things that I think maybe other people don't see is the authenticity of my approach. I
Yeah.
realized, and this, let me try to bring this forward because it's kind of some puzzle pieces to connect here, right? From when we started. So, Mike and Adam, I realized a few years back, I had a conversation and I realized, I said, people say your toxic trait, your toxic trait, your toxic trait. What? I speak that on myself. And it hit me. I say, if there is a toxic trait that I have, it's toxic positivity. Because I can't expect, because things are water off but my back, because I roll with the punches doesn't mean everybody else have to. I can't expect, because I came into this world seeing loss after loss after loss, and raised in a large family and the struggles and all this stuff. I can't expect other people to have the outlook I have because they haven't lived my life. And so I realized that, why do I say toxic positivity? Because sometimes when you are forcing people, or if you come at the angle of trying to force people to have a positive outlook, sometimes people just need to process. It ain't always they got to be happy right now. No, it's okay to not be okay. That was something I realized. And Adam, it was the process of me after I was coaching already, and especially after start teaching, because now I'm dealing with hundreds of people on a monthly basis from different personalities, different backgrounds, different countries. And I had to realize, Mike, you got to check yourself. So here's the thing. The reason why I share all that is because I think sometimes what other people may not see that I see in myself is that my approach is always genuine for the good. Despite
Mm.
sometimes that I may miss the mark because Mike, just why you always gotta flip it? You gotta turn around, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, my bad. It's almost an instinctual thing in me where I realized that I saw something on a show, a TV show, and they said the what is it? The it's not say maybe it was like savior complex. And I was like, that almost describes it, but I would say
Mm.
mine is that helper complex, where
Mhm.
it's like I don't want anybody to be in pain or anybody to be in sadness or anger or whatever. So my instinctual response is to try to give them another way to look at it. And sometimes they just need to be where they are. And that's the beautiful thing about how I approach my coaching, that sometimes you don't need to be right here. Sometimes you need to be where you are, right? Because stress comes from wanting to be there and you're here.
Mm.
That's where stress comes from. So, how can I process and make you the best where you are before I try to uplift you and bring you somewhere else? So, that's something I had to realize. And so, that's how I answer that question. I know it was long, but that's what I think sometimes. Because when I say all the other stuff, Adam, people see my energy. When I come in the room, they see my energy, they see my fun,
Yep.
they see
Hmm.
the love and my passion, the connection for people. But I think that's the one thing that people may miss is that my approach is always genuine from a place of goodness and not harm.
Yeah.
Jeez. I guess like God's intentional. Like Mike, Coach Mike, like you describe me to a T. It's service. Like I know I'm empathic. Like when the world hurts, I hurt.
Mm,
And I don't want people to service. My grandma, it's all about service. It's about equity. It's about value and validation of people. It's about pouring in to people. And um, I'm a thinker. Like I see patterns and things like that. So when people are saying, "Oh, this, and this," I'm like, I gotta wait for it. I see it. I see it, and I don't. I know. I know that like I said earlier, it's more about shining the light versus fixing people. I know
Mm.
people don't need to be fixed. I know that. I also, to be honest, sometimes I get uncomfortable with what people sit with when I know they're causing harm to themselves. And so, like, similar to what you said, it's like to answer Adam's question, is like I love people unconditionally. Like, you got my heart, you got my heart. So how I'm showing up for you, it might throw people off because they're like, like you just met me, you don't care that much. Like, actually, I do. Because you're deserving of love. You deserve. I want what's best for you. Um, yeah, that does really resonate. An amazing question, Adam. And the other thing I would add is like what people don't see is because I'm empathic, I hurt often. And so when you see me moving in light and love, it's because I process, let go to grow, let go of things, and saw alternate route.
Mm.
And so like I think it was like, oh, you're always moving in a good space. It's just like ish. I hurt too, and I had to deal with things too. And so like when I see my girlfriend cry or my daughter cry, it affects me deep deeply. And I've worked on myself enough so I don't have to carry that stuff. Uh,
Mhm.
but I also see it as a gift because I'm in tune with people's feelings. And so I don't think people see that, how often I hurt.
Mm. Well, one, I appreciate both of y'all in the vulnerability space, of course. But also just like, going through this process with me, these are tools that I use a lot within that group coaching space and just team connection space. But also I was like, I wanted to use it with the fellas, get this going and get some thoughts. And I feel like all of you, Professor, Mike's, the Mike and Mike crew, just really drop some gems on this Heel Talk segment. And, that's what it's about, right? When we're talking about Heel Talk and having these conversations, it's all about bringing people who have things to share, who want to share them, who are going to share them, and going to share them for the benefit of others. And as I shared in another segment, as much as the messengers that I bring through speak of their victories, they also acknowledge the victories that didn't happen. And they can talk about that too. And that's what I love about these segments. So, brothers, thank you for coming through on this Heel Talk segment where we bring healing and talking together as one. And it is Wednesday. So, of course, although we didn't do the minute today, please take your minute for that mental health minute whenever you need it. And you are the star player. So, my last words are, who's helping you heal, y'all? Peace.